Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. I am starting today's video from the studio I'm about to shoot in. I rented it a little bit before the shoot itself because I want to talk to you guys exactly about what's gonna go down today. So throughout today's shoot, I'm going to be shooting with one singular light. It is the one behind me over here. It is Aputure STORM 80C. To go along with that, I will be switching up the modifiers, which are also right behind me over here. We have a lantern, a dome, and a spotlight mini, which are all from Aputure. So a huge thank you to them for sending me all of this equipment to shoot with and working with me on this video today. And I feel like by now you guys know how much I love small portable lights, and that's exactly what the Storm 80C is. And I did a previous shoot actually in the same studio with the Storm 80C, but they just released these new modifiers to go along with it that are all compatible with this light. And so I thought today's shoot could be all about focusing in on these modifiers and kind of crafting a concept that could go along with each one, because they all sort of emit different types of light. We have a makeup artist coming and my friend Allie who's gonna model for me today, and they're gonna be here super soon, so let's get right into it. First up, like I mentioned, I wanted to start with Aputure's Lantern 30 attachment right here. So starting out with something that feels really soft and diffused. And then with the Storm 80C right here, I can be in like full control of the colors and the temperatures. So as everything is sort of set up, I'm just gonna sort of play around with the color and how it's looking off of Allie and choose something that I see kind of fits best there. This attachment delivers 360 degrees of that really nice ambient sort of fill light. And so it's really ideal for adding a nice sort of glow to your subjects without any of that harsh shadow. So because it sort of casts that really nice glowy light, I wanted this look in particular to really complement that. So we're including a lot of sort of warm yellow fabrics. I also asked the makeup artist to do a sort of warm look as well, something sort of simple to tie it all together. So not only was the light and the attachment we used here super key in creating this overall look, but so were some other things. So the gear, I'm using the Nikon Z8 and the Nikkor Z 24-70mm f 2.8s lens. So a mirrorless camera, a mirrorless lens. And for the settings, I had my shutter at 1/160th. My f-stop was at 3.5 and my ISO was at 800. And then with that Storm 80C, I headed on over to the CCT controls. If you want, you can also change things on the app that they have for you, but because I was sort of within range, I'm a little bit taller, I can get to the light pretty easy. I just chose to do it on the light itself. But within the light, there's actually multiple different lighting modes. There is HSIC+, RGB, gel, source, XY, and then there's that CCT we're using that really focuses in on the overall temperature and the tint. So I played around from 1800 Kelvin to 20,000, but just really preferred those sort of warmer tones, which, you know, I expected. I also had some fans going, which adds a lot of movement. And then from there, I really just shot a ton because you can get really lucky with the way the fabric's moving and also the way that Allie's hair was sort of ebbing and flowing throughout the space here. And then I just directed Allie to maybe throw the fabric, stand with it, sit with it, you know, do all the things. And then finally, I just made sure to tell her to always sort of be in her light there so that she was always really well lit and stood out amongst all of the craziness and the fabric that was going on. All right, next up, we're moving away from the lantern. I feel like we got a lot of really cool shots. We're moving on to something just a tad bit more direct. It is this light dome right here. So sort of like a mini circular softbox. And like all the attachments we're gonna be using today, these were made specifically for this light here. They all use this mini Pro Lock mount. So everything just locks on super easily and seamlessly and feels secure wherever you're putting the light, whether it's like super up high or upside down or something like that. As you can see here, I have a one-stop diffusion cloth and then also the grid on top, which I'll just sort of Velcro on, super easy. And this setup here will feel really simple, which I love. I feel like I have been incorporating a lot of really cool like fabrics and backdrops within my shoots recently, but it is also fun to sort of strip everything away and go the route of sort of less is more. So I ended up casting the light, this time from a pretty high up elevation, and then had Ali pose underneath it, creating this sort of top-down setup. And although this sort of positioning of the light can be really flattering, it's definitely important to keep in mind that your model should always sort of be facing up towards the light as much as possible. You know, of course, if you're trying to see your subject. That way you can avoid any crazy shadows that kind of feel really harsh. But what I love about this specific attachment is that it's still really soft, even with that sort of added on grid. And that grid again just sort of helps control the spill of everything. I wanted it to create this almost sort of like subtle spotlight effect onto her. So it felt a little bit hard, but also really soft at the same time. Sort of a really nice in between that I can use for a ton of my shoots. All right, last but not least, which I think is the star of the show here, Aputure's Spotlight Mini. This is a projector attachment that delivers really dramatic, sort of clean beams of light from the Storm ADC right here. And I already love using spotlights and gobos and sort of patterned light throughout my work already. I do it quite literally, I think, on like every shoot recently. But what makes this one so much better than the ones I've used in the past is the size of it. This one is less than 13 inches by 5 inches. So not only does it fit in this cute little carrying case, but that also means that it's perfect for tighter spaces, because a lot of the time us photographers and videographers, we need to be sort of able to hide our lights in not so accessible areas. So like under a table or like behind a couch or something. So this Spotlight Mini comes with a 19-degree lens and also a 36-degree lens. So if you want something with a bit of a wider spread, you can opt for that 36. But because I like to work as small as possible, the 19-degree one worked perfectly for what I was going for here. Everything just paired so well together, from the sparkles to the metallic makeup to, of course, the really bright beam of light from the Storm ADC and the projector attachment. I experimented a bit with the blades of the attachment completely open to create this spotlight, but then I also ended up playing with some gobos that came along with it. And I specifically loved this one that had a bunch of sort of vertical lines to it. But to make it a little bit more interesting to me, I just played a little bit with the focus of the spotlight so that they were a little bit blurry. And I just feel like this looked so cool and complemented the overall look. And it does come with a handful of gobos that you can choose from. But what's really cool is that it is an M-sized gobo compatible sort of attachment, which is the industry standard. So you can use whichever existing ones you already have or expand your kit even further to create like thousands of different effects. Really, there are so many gobos out there. Of course, this attachment paired with the Storm ADC's advanced Blare CG light engine, you can play with quite literally any color you'd like. The light itself covers 90% of the Rec 2020 color gamut, making saturated colors and sort of challenging shades as well feel really possible when you're shooting. So the possibilities are really endless for what you can do with all of this. All right, so there you have it. An entire shoot with this one light and these 3 different modifiers, which I love so much. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did make it this far, let me know if you have a favorite modifier that I shot with today and concept. There was the lantern with the yellow fabric, the light dome with the dramatic sort of top-down light, and then also finally the Spotlight Mini with the sparkles and the metallic. And once again, a huge thank you to Aputure for sending through the Storm ADC and all these attachments. If you enjoyed any of the lighting and the gear today, I'll be listing links directly below in the description so you can easily access them for yourself. And be sure to follow both me and Aputure for future updates, more product launches down the line. And with all that, I will see you guys soon. Bye.